Well, hello, and welcome back to Red Fox Classics and the continuing story of this 1969 Mark II GT6 restoration. This thing got taken apart sometime around 1983 and has been waiting ever since to be finished. And we're on the way. So this time we're still, if you can probably tell by the position of the welder, looking around the back end of the car. Now, last time we kind of went through the rear wheel arch and rear quarter and fixed up all the inner structure that needed it on the driver's side, and the next big job I think is going to be to replace the boot floor, because it's bent and it's rotten and it's slightly dodgily repaired in places, so I've got a whole new panel. I'm just going to change that. But before I get onto that, there's some rot around the seal of the hatch at the bottom where the seal would go, so let's go and deal with that first, and we'll see how far we get if we actually get to cut out the boot floor in this video. So, I think what I'm going to look at first is something sort of boring, but just needs doing. This lip here is not very nice. You can see it's rotted away. It's pitted, heavily pitted, but it's not completely gone. I think I'm going to need to replace like all of that lip. So the first job is to get some of this paint off. I had a quick go with the stripping wheel a week or two ago, and the stuff this is painted in just doesn't come off like that. So I'm going to get a heat gun and do a bit of stripping, and then we'll have a look what's underneath. Okay, so it doesn't look so bad on this side. It's underneath that's the problem though. You'll be able to see it's quite, try to be better with the light. It's quite scabby under here. And if you start looking more closely, there's a hole there, some little holes there. There's a bunch of welding underneath here. I can't really make it out on the top. Same here, there's a couple of spots over here that have been welded on. So I think still what I'm going to do is try and replace the strip. I might cut, well I think I'm probably going to replace some of this as well. This bit. So I think I might cut through the middle. Replace like that sort of section and then do the other side similarly. And at the moment what I think I'm going to do is probably make myself a 90-degree bend. I'm going to have to shrink a little bit because there's a very subtle curve here. I'm going to weld it in and then I'm going to jam a dolly in this edge, and then I'm going to take it down to this more acute angle, because if I try and make that angle bend and then put it in the stretcher, it's going to do two things. It's going to keep my jaws from getting in as far because there'll be a metal bent over, and it's going to make it more difficult to keep this bit flat, which I need. I think I need. Let's check, is that flat? Anyway, if it doesn't work, I can always do it again. So I'll best find myself a strip of metal and get on with it. Right, so there's that. This surface does appear to remain flat not until like very late in the corner, and I would like to avoid getting up that far anyway, though I have made my template go up there. So I'm going to stretch this a bit and see if I can make that shape. I have made myself a bit of a cardboard template just to help a little bit. So see what I can make. So if you've not seen one of these before, this is a kick stretcher, and what it has is jaws that we put the metal in. It pulls on here, and the effect of that is to make this little bit of metal hit this edge thinner, and that curves this in that way. And the opposite is a shrinker, which does the opposite. So it pulls together, makes the metal a bit thicker, and so you end up curving because you get a differential size change. So hopefully we can see here, it's like the subtlest of curves to start with. I'll probably start about there. It's more or less straight to here, and then it just starts tipping up. You know, there's a tiny curve starting there,
So I'm doing this very slowly, very carefully, because it's quite easy to crank down on these and put a great big bend in something, but here we really need at least that initial bit, need quite a subtle curve. Here it's going to get a bit stronger.
Seeing what's happened there as well, it's not bent a bit in the wrong direction, it's bent a bit that way.
Fortunately, it's probably going to be cured by increasing the angle of this bend, which is what we want to do anyway. And also don't care too much about that end. Yeah, so we're good to about there. Let's see what that looks like on the car. Pretty good, but I want to go a little bit further on that end. I don't think I'm going to need that. But I'd like to have a bit more, rather than a bit too much rather than a bit too little, because I can always cut some of this off. So it's proving quite difficult to figure out if it fits or not, so I'm going to start trying to make that bend. Of course, helpfully twisting the metal too. So I've actually taken the hammer and dolly and done the opposite here. Bash that lip outwards, because that's going to let me sit this in here and see that curve-wise it seems to be fitting all right. Problem is though, like you see here, it's just not quite touching, and I can't get this lip into the jaws of the shrinking stretcher. So I think I might find myself doing a tiny cut in there just to let it bend. Just get a straight edge. Yeah, so that is flat for a given value of flat. Flat. When you take into account its edge and so on. And that. Yeah, it's a tiny bit different. Ah, that's what I'm seeing, look. I'm seeing that dent, all that damage. Nice. Okay, that's going to need trimming down a bit. I want to be trying to weld sort of huge, not right close to this edge, but replacing as much as I can, because obviously this is thin, particularly in this area. And I'll probably trim it closer just to, again, try and keep on the flat bit here rather than enter into any of this curvy area. Though it's going to be manageable, whatever. I can probably cut it off there where my finger is. Well, somehow this is going to be easier than it. So that doesn't change. So I've chopped this tiny little bit out of this section under the latch, and that's let me shove this right up against the existing edge. I've had to make a couple of little tweaks. I made a little bit of a stretch there, a little bit of a stretch there, because it wasn't quite snogging up. And it is now. You see, I've trimmed down the back of it. And I'm going to mark there, and then cut inside the line. And my aim being, because obviously, you know, this is now sat at least the thickness of this metal back this way. So when we cut, if we cut on the edge of the outside of the line, it's going to be too big a gap. Should be on the inside of the line. That should just be the width of the cutting disc, and we move it forward. That should give us a nice gap. So I'll get it marked, get it cut, and see what it looks like. Alright, so that's in, sitting relatively nicely against these edges, but still needs tiniest bit of trim just to be able to drop down. I found out there was a tab here that I've cut through. Well, I knew there was a little bit, but there's more of it, so I'm going to have to fix that first. I'm kind of tempted to take this whole bracket off, but then putting it back in the right place I'm sure will be a nightmare. Just because it's welding down here. Let me see, where's my finger? Oh, yeah, welding down here, where it's been, where the new valance has been attached. It's just a bit icky. Anyway, yeah, a bit more trimming to do. Right, so I've repaired that little section. Focusing. Yeah, so I repaired that little section, ground it back, primed it. So I just made a bit of an accidental cut through it. Doesn't seem to be welded on to the inner flange. I wonder if it should be. Anyway, got this bit primed too, and while that was drying I came over here and I made a little section to go in this corner because there was that there. Oops. And then I'm going to get that welded in and then probably make this little bit. So I've got this lip repair tacked in, and what I've been doing, or what I started with, I just clamped it in one place, made sure that was flush, welded the inside of the clamp. Then I came down this end and did the same, and I kind of been working along, trying to make sure the line up of these panels was good, and it's not very in many places. But anyway, just using the hammer and dolly just to get it more or less right. What I'm going to do now, or what I'm going to do next, is grind off all these individual welds. And then I'm going to be able to put hammer and dolly on and make sure that line-up's better than it is, because here we've got that edge is high, for example. And then I'm going to do another row of tacks, and then I'm going to do the same thing again until it's all welded. I've done a couple of little touch-up where there were holes, just sticking the brass backer behind and weld them up. So this is what I'm meaning. I'm just going to go very carefully, grind off each little tack. And you can do this with like an angle grinder and a fresh disc, but obviously it's a bit easier to be precise with something like this. So once I've hit the parent metal on one side or the other, because this one here we've got a little bit of a raise on the new piece relative to the old piece, then I want to stop, and then I'll be able to get a dolly under here and flange that down. In this case there's not a lot of anything on the other side, so I'm just not bringing that quite up. I don't want to go here for some reason. That's better. Yeah, so now I'm going to do that all along. And then weld a bit more and repeat. So hopefully you get the idea. I'm going to grind these, check the alignment, weld again, grind until it's done, and then I'll have a look at it. Okay, I got this mostly done. There's one or two more bits that need touching up. But before we look at that too closely, let's just check this hatch. Not sure how good a test this is, given I'm not fully attached this bracket back, but let this go a lot lower. Okay, so that's shots, but I think this bracket's going to want to move a bit further forward than where it's just naturally sitting, because when that's shot, that's proud. It's a bit difficult to tell what's right because it's proud over there too. It's a bit better. Okay, but definitely that bracket wants to go a little bit further inwards when it gets welded on. But it's not a complete mess. Okay, so that's all done. Ground. Hatch shuts, okay. And I know what I'm going to do with this bracket. I was planning on remaking this top section anyway because it's pretty rough, but I know I need to make it sit relatively far back. No. Anyway, I have to do that all again on this side. I've already got the bit more or less made, so I'm going to get on with that, and then we'll see what the next job is. Actually, just before I cut this off, you can see how much flex there is in it compared with that now. So it's probably like that underneath. I'm wondering how did that happen, because you must have had water running in and down. Just all the trim boards sit there and get wet. Don't know. Anyway, let's go on with that. So I've been getting on with this. I've had a bit of trouble over here with the metal being quite thin, so I've already put an extra bit in and then blown through again. I've also noticed this has dipped down, so I'm going to have to, well, I'll try and hammer it up. Possibly hammer that end down, and if not, I'm going to have to put a slice in and weld again, but it's fixable. It's slow, but it's coming out good. So I was trying to do my final bits of welding on here, and what I like to do is hold a torch behind so you see any pinholes, and I was seeing some light come through sort of in this channel, so I salted it with a wire wheel, and we've got some more holes. And there's been someone's welded along well, welded along there already. So, well, I guess I'll get this ground, and then at least that'll have to be a patch, I think. Maybe some of these I can just fill in with weld, but we'll see. Okay, so that's in, and I've now got bent that lip over, and I've got dips there, which I guess makes sense because they're symmetrical and they've kind of both deformed in the same way when this has been lipped over. The hatch will go down. So I think the next bit I want to do is repair this latch mount and attach it so the centre is fixed in place and it's functional. You know, we can shut the hatch, we can latch the hatch so it will line up nicely with the edge of the body, and then I'll go after replacing some of the bits in here and trying to bring this up, because at the moment it's a lot more solid than it was, but there's still flex in the middle, and if we want to move that bit relative to the middle, that bit, then having that welded in place is going to help. So what I'm going to do is kind of replace this top bit. I'm going to cut somewhere just down here and replicate those holes just in the flat sheet metal, because this is quite rusty on the inside and the outside. So time for it to go. And I also need to keep the weld seam away from. This plane, because otherwise the captive plate onto there is not going to work. Okay, so I've been getting on, made myself a little replacement part to go in there, and as you can see I've got everything cleaned up and primed. Needs another coat, but it's getting there. I've got that bit sat here, try and make sure I don't forget to put it in, because that would be annoying. I've also cut out this little bit here. I'm going to build a little patch from that. I was able to stick the big angle grinder in, just get that off, and then take the little Dremel underneath and just take out those corners, so it came out relatively easily. Anyway, get these bits welded. Then I've got another bit to deal with here and here. Okay, so the light's proving difficult for welding and filming, but what I've done here, I've got some little blocks of wood jammed behind this bracket just to push it that bit further down. I'm going to shut the hatch, and hatch is too deep, which is what I wanted, because now I've got to just bring this that way. So I think I'm going to tack it on like this, and then I'm going to try and get this trimmed and better fitted down to the lip. Yeah, keep checking the hatches and close.
Yeah, you will. Right.
Okay, so I got that in. I decided just to weld it rather than try and weld and grind, because it was just slightly awkward. Kind of knocked the top off some of the welds down here. Needs proper clean up. And I've just stuck a bit of brass under here and tried to fill in the holes, and then there's another one there immediately. I put the camera on it. that little bit in, just all the bits to tidy up. I have thought what I'm going to do about these having dipped down. I think I'm going to look for myself a linear stretch hammer. Then I can just put the dolly up here, stretch this a little bit. That'll let me, probably will bring it up without me having to do anything. But before I start cutting this and welding it, I'm going to try that. Anyway, I'll get all this finished off and then find something else to do. Right, so I've done a whole lot of grinding. Now I put my finger on it and feel some spatter in there. Filled in these holes, that's fine. Had a look if I can get a stretching hammer over lunch, and I can't find one of them in the kit at all. So I'm going to be cutting these. So there we go with that one. Made a couple of cuts, and I put the dolly sort of there and hit underneath, and that's a bit better. And you see compared with the other one, which is definitely sunk down here. I might have a quick go, raise that a bit, but I'll get that done, get those welded, then do the other side. Okay, so this is all done. It's welded up, and I got my little cuts ground and all that sorted out. It's a little bit high, it keeps wanting to be a little bit high on this side, and I'm hoping there's some adjustment in the hinge because it's a little bit high there as well. But I can fiddle with that at another time. My thinking had been now to take the boot floor out or start working on that. But I've been having to think. So all of this is lacquered, and the repair work on the inside, you see there's quite a lot of blobby welding holding everything together, so that's not going to last particularly long. So if you've seen the Rusty Beauties Mark 1 GT6 restoration, you'll have seen that Lynn de-seamed this, which I think I'm going to steal that idea, because you know this is a replacement valance and it's already gone. But I need to try and I need to retain this still, because this is the bit that the first of all the wiring attaches to, and also the boot floor sits on. So I have to do some refitting and welding of this bit, and I think accessing in there is going to be easier if I can sort of sit where the boot floor isn't. So I think what my next job should be is to try and remake the outside of this, or make this sort of de-seam panel, so we have to make a flange that curves to match the profile of this rear panel, and then cut it into here and here. So we've got one join rather than the other. So I will do a bit of paint stripping, and we'll see what it all looks like underneath. Well, so there's rot. This is kind of what I was expecting from what you can see on the inside. So this car's obviously had a rear valance at some point, and it's been joined on here. Well, you know, relatively for some of the repairs I've seen, this is not bad. This car, and I'll keep saying this, even when I find bits of rot, it's not that bad. But still, this is going to require some work. First thing I'm thinking is we've got a flat edge, you know, we've got a flat bit that's not rotten up until about here, and then it starts to get a bit questionable. So I'm wondering if, you know, somewhere between there and there, I first of all put in a little piece that remakes that corner, you know, weld to there and weld in here, and then we can repair to that. My plan was, and still is, and it doesn't really change things, is to make that flange and de-seam this whole thing. It's just might have to go a little bit further up than I was anticipating, because this is quite lumpy. But you can kind of tell from the blobs of welding in there from when this valance was put on. Yeah, like that's weld. That's not, you know. It's not sheet steel. Anyway, I'm not sure what's the best here, because we can probably get away with welding to this, and then it means I'm not touching the actual exterior panel, or the more visible, or more easily distorted panel. Don't know, I'm going to have a think.
That's leading me to think this should be a next time job in terms of the video, because I might start this today, but I probably won't finish it today, and it's Saturday and I wish to put together a video. So we'll be sticking, I think, with the hatch lip repairs and all that, but it's another job ticks off the list, and the hatch closes, which is quite nice. So thanks everyone for watching. If you've got this far into the video and you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing so, because I'm still creeping up on when YouTube will let me have some advertising revenue, and every subscriber counts, and you'll get to see what happens next. Thanks everyone who already is subscribed, and I'll see you next time.